Good evening, ma'am. Greetings to everyone present here. We would like to welcome the young believers who intensely believe in the power of dream and hold capabilities to convert the desire to reality. Self-development can be characterized as a constructive hobby which forces all of us to constantly work on the steps of collective growth. The eagerness to learn something is the reason we all are here attending this webinar. On this note, I would like to introduce myself, Sule Christian, and my co-host.
My name is Padmakshi Gadgir.
We both once again welcome you all.
Welcome. ECell members are always backed by a robust support. Multitasking is cake way for her. Her personality inspires everyone around her. People literally gear up to work in her presence. Yes, you all guessed it right. I would like to call Manisha ma'am to introduce our guest speaker.
Thank you, Padmakshi. Am I audible properly? Am I audible?
No ma'am, it's just a little bit low.
Little bit low. Okay, now am I audible? Let me increase
Yes
it.
ma'am.
Okay. So, welcome, Amisha Dholakia, ma'am. On this occasion, I'm glad to welcome our honorable guest speaker, Mrs. Amisha Dholakia, ma'am. She has excelled in dynamic areas. Her charismatic leadership skills have always fascinated listeners like us. Constant self development in her hobby. She is leading quality and training teams across India for a leading e commerce company. We would guarantee that this session would definitely bestow you with a life changing communication skill. Also, I would like to request everyone to keep their questions ready at this session as is going to be interactive. Even I'm going to ask many questions to Madam as she is so charismatic. I can see her face booming with energy, ma'am. So we are waiting for you to listen. Thank you very much, Madam, for accepting our invitation. Thank you.
I would like to request ma'am to start her speech.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Hello and good afternoon. How are you today on a Saturday afternoon listening to me? Wow, that really tells something about the passion that each one of you have and, the zeal that you have to learn something new. Right. And welcome to this session. Thank you, everyone. I think eCell ADIT, this is a really good initiative. And I was just thinking back about my college days and thinking, what if my college would have done something of this sort for me? I think it's brilliant, a very nice initiative, and welcome to everyone who's joined us here. Okay. Um, I'm sure, all of you must be thinking when you saw the topic, enhancing eloquence, enhancing communication. What is there to discuss? We all know what communication is all about. I mean, we communicate every day. We heard Padmakshi, Sulai, Manisha, ma'am, everyone speaks so well today. So, what is it to learn in communication, isn't it? Well, do we really need to discuss it? Do we really need to talk about it? I'm sure all of you must be thinking about the debates that you won in college, right? Or the kind of arguments that you won with your parents. And you must be thinking, well, I communicate very well. Why do I need to go for a session like this? So well, let me start. Let me start by this very nice quote, okay, that I love, and you will see a lot of quotes that I generally speak about, and I would urge each one of you also, to always Google certain quotes of famous people and just read through it. They're really, really very, very powerful and very motivating. So now I'm going to try to present my screen, and the team has helped me, but I'm not so sure whether it'll come back up. good or not? So I would want one of you to confirm if everyone can see my screen. I hope everyone can see my screen.
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
ma'am.
Thank you. So this is the quote that I like to start with, which is by George Bernard Shaw. He says that the single biggest problem in communication is the illusion that it has taken place. Because when you communicate, it does not mean that I've said what I wanted to say. Is communication over there? No. Communication is over only when the opposite person to whom you're communicating understands you and can understand the context behind what you're saying, why you are saying, the clarity with which you speak, and also the way it is understood. Right? So that's why I just love this quote. And I thought that let us, start with this. You know, also eloquence. When we talk about eloquence, let me show you a definition of eloquence which is there. Right? I'll just show you the definition of eloquence. Enhancing eloquence. I'll leave it on for a minute for all of you to read. What is an eloquent speaker? And what do you mean by enhancing eloquence? Yeah. It is, hope you've read through this. It's basically, when a speaker expresses himself or herself very clearly and powerfully. Even though you normally talk about eloquence when you talk about verbal communication, it is also used to describe a lot in powerful writing. Okay. Being eloquent is nothing but, just using your words very well. Uh, to summarize it, I would say that, eloquence means leaving a lasting impression in whatever communication you're doing, be it spoken, be it written, be it via chat with someone. But it means that how lasting impression, how are you creating a lasting impression? Okay. So with that, let's talk about what are the objectives of the session today. While when I was asking the team, what is the time I have? They said about 60 minutes. I said, well, I don't want to talk 60 minutes. I want everyone to ask a lot of questions. I want everyone to be participative in this. I'm just going to let you know what are the objectives of the session today. And we're going to spend a lot of time in Q&A as well. Well, the first one is campus to corporate. How different it is when you'll be moving now from campus to a corporate life. What is the difference between the two? What are the skills that you need when you move to corporate? Then what are the different elements of communication? Elements include, and I'm sure you also would have learned it in your class curriculum. However, let's look at it now with the lens of a corporate culture, right? How do you create a lasting impression? I'm sure you've learned it in your college, and they say that your first 1 minute or 2 minutes of interaction can really create a good first impression or a lasting impression. Let's talk about it a little bit more in terms of how do you go about creating that lasting impression. Then let's talk a little bit about conversation cycle. I don't know how many of you have heard what is a conversation cycle, but I'm going to very quickly talk about the conversation cycle a little bit more. And then we move on to the question and answer session. Okay. I'm going to pause a bit over here and ask anyone if there is any question on the objectives or if there's something more that you'd like to know over and above this. I'm going to pause over here and ask you to speak or let me know if there's anything more from the objectives or from this session that you'd like to learn.
Ma'am, sorry to interrupt, but can you make it full screen? It is hardly visible to us.
Oh, it's not visible to you. It is full
Yes,
screen.
ma'am, it is not visible.
Sorry, give me a second then.
This is the presenter's view, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you for letting me know. I have stopped
No problem,
presenting
ma'am.
now and I'm going to go back and choose the full screen window again. Is it visible now?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
Now
ma'am.
it's perfect.
Full
Yes, ma'am.
screen?
Now it's perfect.
Okay. All right.
Yes,
Thank you. Please do stop me in between if any time it goes wrong. Let me just go back and take you, if you want, to the earlier slides. Do you want me to go back to the earlier slide?
no, ma'am, not an issue. You can continue
Okay.
from here.
Super. Thank you. All right. So let's jump right into the next topic, which is campus versus corporate. As you can see, the picture depicts it all. When you're in a campus, right, you are creating, the campus creates a foundation for the future. It actually makes sure that, you are learning and only learning at that time. But when you move to a corporate, the learning takes place while you're earning. That's the biggest difference. Yeah. As a student, you enjoy a lot of freedom in your campus, outside of your lecture hours or your college timings. You're free to do what you like. However, an employee is always responsible. If you're an employee of an organization, even if you're going outside to a party or to a social gathering or with your colleagues, you are representing that company, so you're always responsible for them. While you're in your college, in your campus, exams are your major criteria through which you qualify to go to the next session, to your next quarter or your next class. However, when you're in a corporate environment, your evaluation happens on a daily basis. You may be thinking, how is this possible? Well, evaluation is not using your day-to-day but it's basically on how you conduct yourself, how you go about the moment you enter office or the moment you enter your place, your office premises. From that time your evaluation starts. The way you interact with your colleagues, the way you speak in a meeting, sit in a meeting, the way you talk in a meeting, all of that counts, which is extremely important. Generally, when you're in a college, your practical is just about 25% or 30%, 40%, depending on the kind of stream or the course that you're doing. However, when you're in a corporate environment, it's 100% practical. There's no theory. Whatever you do, you are basically judged or evaluated basis the tasks that you perform, right? So that's very, very important. Normally in a college, it's only upon you, right? You're responsible for yourself. So after the college hours, whether you bunk college, whether, and I'm sure this brings a smile to a lot of your faces. Even I've bunked when I was in college. So I think, when you kind of, it's up to you whether to attend college or not, or whether, after college hours, what do you do? But well, when you're working in an office, or even if you have your own entrepreneurial stint, you have your own company, I think everything is highly interlinked. One day you don't show up at work has a lot of cascading impact in terms of lots of interlinkages that you may have with clients, with meetings, with a lot of things. So it's extremely, extremely critical to understand the difference between a campus and a corporate. Because once you understand that, that's definitely going to help you build a lot of your skills. You know, at this stage of college where you are, or the campus where you are, you're soon going to be a part of a large organization, or you're going to start your own company and your own organization. You will be crowdsourcing for your new venture. You'll be reaching out to a lot of clients, to a lot of different companies after your engineering to see what's the best profile that suits you. At that point of time, developing these different skills is extremely important. And that brings me to, to the next slide, where I would like to talk about what are the important skills that you need when you move from campus to corporate. And I'm just going to talk, a little bit about these skills very, very briefly. I think the first and the most critical is communication. And we're going to study a little bit more in the next slides. But there are these plethora of skills that definitely is interlinked. And it's not that way that for each of this skill you have to do a different course. No. As we saw, it is all practical. It is all, when you work in an environment, in a corporate environment, you will learn all of this automatically. Keep your eyes open, keep your ears open. There is a very nice saying that I heard when I first joined, my office. So I've got about 20 plus years of work experience in various organizations, starting from sales, then quality, then training, then being a leader today. And one of the first things I heard, and you must have heard this as well, that God has given us one mouth, two eyes, and two ears. So the thing is, listen more, right? See more and speak less. So initially, in your days when you join a new organization, this is going to be very, very important, because that's how you will learn teamwork. Yeah, I know in college as well, you have your teams and you get together and there's a lot of teamwork that happens. When you join a new company or when you're on a project, you may have teams from different parts of the world, from different parts of India. So how you carry yourself in that team when you're doing the teamwork is very, very important. Another important skill is motivation, right? How do you self-motivate? How do you motivate your peers? And tomorrow when you become a manager, how do you motivate your team is very, very important, right? And leadership. Everyone has a myth about leadership that only when, you have a couple of people reporting to you, can you become a leader. But I disagree to that. I think everyone is a born leader. Each one of you is a leader, right? And each one of you can acquire that skill that is needed to polish yourself so that your leadership qualities are seen when you go to an organization, right? A leader does not mean that you order people around. A leader does not mean that, very typically, there are many movies in which they show you that when the boss walks in, everybody stands up. No, that's not leadership, right? Leadership is basically motivating your team, taking care of them. I can give you, I can tell you right now in the time of pandemic and the kind of situation, the second wave of COVID that all of us are going through, I think on Facebook, on Instagram, I read so many leadership stories where, there are famous personalities or even people, locals who really are trying to help each other out. I think that's leadership, on how you take charge of a situation and you resolve it and you care for others. That's leadership, right? Problem solving ability. Who doesn't have problems? But the thing is, when you move to a corporate and in an environment, how do you problem solve is extremely critical. right? And these are the times when different case studies and different various kinds of scenarios that you come through will help you learn and will help you improve. Being responsible, as I said before, you will be required to communicate with stakeholders, with a whole lot of people. So it's very important to know that you need to be responsible for your communications, for what you say, what you write, what you chat with others. It's not today like, you have a WhatsApp group, Facebook, you are a student, you are, you kind of, there is a light banter that happens between friends on WhatsApp, etc., etc. But when you are in a corporate environment, it's very, very important that you adapt to that environment. And I think that's also a very, very critical skill. Of course, time management, all of you know, and I'm sure being in engineering, you all are aware about the importance of this. How do you resolve conflicts? Well, you resolve conflicts with a win-win situation, right? It's not always I need to win and the others need to lose. Body language, that's very, very critical, how you carry yourself. I think now I should say body language has become the Zoom language, or the Google Meet language, because how you present yourself in any of the online platforms, or when you're in a meeting is extremely important. So, well, these are some of the skills that you kind of need to acquire. Moving on, when we talk about communication, I'll now talk a little bit in detail about communication. Yeah. Okay. Here we go into deep diving on communication skills for a workplace success. I think as it is written over here, every job requires human interaction. And in our case now, when you're working from home, it is an online interaction. Yeah? So developing a strong communication skill can help facilitate these interactions much better. So these are some of the top communication skills that are needed for a workplace success. Active listening. You must be thinking we all are listening. We listen to so many people. We listen to our teachers, we listen to our parents, we listen to our elder brother or sister. What's important in listening? But active listening is really, really critical. Most of the times, and when someone is telling you something, the first thought in your mind is, you're ready to respond, right? That's not active listening. Active listening is not only listening to what the person is saying, but also what the person is not saying. That is intent behind what the person is saying, the context, all of that is extremely, extremely important. That is active listening. And believe me, it's not easy. It's not easy. Right? Especially, when it's your first day in office, and, from morning to evening, 8 hours a day, you will have your orientation. You will go through so many people speaking about the company, about the policies, HR talking. So many people will be talking. And I think the first thing that will come to your mind is, oh my God, so many things. I'm listening so much. When will my turn come? But I think that first day is very, very critical. And that's the time you need to do active listening. That'll help you assimilate in the culture of the organization. And well, as it says, there are many different styles of communication. Another critical element is going to be giving feedback, right? So today, I'm sure, your teachers must be providing feedback to you over any project that you've done, or over, mainly projects in your college. But you will be getting a lot of this when you move to a corporate life from your mentors, from your managers. I'm sure even in college you would have a mentor system, but most organizations today assign mentors to new hires, which is such a wonderful concept because there's someone who can give you feedback and help you improve early on. Written communication, what can I say? Do remember, and this is a mistake all of us make, to use the WhatsApp lingo when you write an email. PFA, please find attached. Make sure you write please find attached and not PFA. Till somebody in the organization tells you it's okay to write a PFA. Confidence with which you carry yourself, and again, remember, underconfidence and overconfidence, both of them are not good. It's just the right amount of confidence when you go for your interviews, when you're submitting your resume. Second is, be open. Openness is another very, very important skill. Don't hold yourself back. Be open and share your views. Don't speak or share about what the opposite person wants to hear, right? Openness is a very, very important skill. Empathy is another. I'm sure you've learned empathy in as part of your soft skills curriculum. But showing empathy in a corporate is very, very different. Presentations and public speaking, well, I'm sure all of you have done it. And the last and the most important skill is writing reports or proposals. Because writing reports is going to be important, as each one of you as engineers, even when you go out and start your own business, right? You would need to write reports, you would need to write proposals, how well you do it. How crisply you write things is very, very important. So these are some of the key or the top communication skills for your workplace success. And before I move on to my next topic, I'm going to pause over here, come out of screen share, and look at if there are any questions or any queries. Okay, I hope I'm out of screen share now.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so Padmakshi, is there any queries we have? Any questions? Happy to answer that before moving on.
Ma'am, there is a one question on YouTube. That person has asked that for oral exams, like Viva is a very important part of uh, engineering life. So, are there any tips and tricks to excel that?
Wow, such an interesting question. You've taken me back to my college days. Oh, yes, I also gave Viva. I'm also an electronics engineer from Mumbai University, and I gave a Viva. I can tell you how tough it is. But good question. I think the first thing to keep in mind when you go for a Viva is don't get afraid or worried about the question coming to you. If you've done your preparation well, you are ready for it. Second, when you speak, okay, take a deep breath. Believe me, that's the best trick. When the teacher asks you a question, take a deep breath, count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then start answering. It always helps. Structure your thoughts. That's important. I'm sure when you count till 5, that page on the journal comes in front of you for which you have to answer, right? But don't rattle out. Take a deep breath, structure your thought on what you want to answer first. How do you want to start? And, I'm going to talk a little bit more about lasting impression. I think the first 5 seconds or 10 seconds of how you open the Viva is extremely critical, because that gives you confidence, that gives the examiner that confidence. And then you start talking, right? Also remember, in Viva, the words are important, but the subject itself is also very important. right? So those are the tips I can give you. What an interesting question.
Sure, ma'am. Thank you so much. Ma'am, I have one more question.
Sure.
Uh, just a second. I just have to read it. Ma'am, that Akshat Barot has asked, what is the thing you should focus in formal communication?
Okay. In a formal communication, if you're talking about written communication, there are two things. If you're talking about a written communication, then always remember to start with asking the well-being of a person, especially in a time like this, in a pandemic situation, in a time like this. When you start an email, you always uh, you always start with a well-being of a person, that hope you're doing well, hope you and your family are doing well, hope everything is okay with you. Normally that's how you would start a written communication. Keep it crisp, and in the end, do not forget to thank them and to leave your name and your contact details, whether it's your email ID, your phone number. These are very, very essential when you're doing a formal communication. If you're talking about, when you go to meet someone in a formal environment, like a job interview or something, you should always make sure that you greet the person by a handshake. I know in times of Corona right now, handshake is not there and everyone talks the good old namaste. So make sure you start with a good old namaste, and then introduce yourself first, and then get to why you are kind of meeting the person. Okay, so these are 2 3 tips when you go for a formal communication. But yeah, these are very, very essential and important. Okay.
Uh, Ma'am, actually, there is one more question. Parth
Sure.
has asked that what are the key pointers while giving a presentation?
Okay, what are the key pointers while giving a presentation? First of all, when you're giving a presentation, you should keep your notes ready of what you're going to speak. And let me tell you, even after so many years, I have my notes ready. I always keep them with me. I think have your notes ready on what you want to speak. Um, and what else should I say? If you're speaking for the first time in public, in front of a mirror, you should. Now that you have mobiles, at my time, I remember so many years back when I had to practice, I would practice in front of a mirror. But now you have your lovely cell phone, record yourself, play it yourself, and then say how many marks do I give myself, right? And that's your test of how well prepared you are. But I think the first most important thing is and I'm going to come to that. I'm going to come to those tips in a bit, in terms of how should you make an eye contact and speak to people, right? And not look somebody over or under. That's a very important one. But when first, make a presentation. Second, keep your notes ready. Practice. Practice by recording yourself. um, of course, check your, always check your audio video, otherwise it'll happen like what happened in the first slide, where I was presenting a presenter's view. I'm not very comfortable with Google Meeting because I don't use that much. I use Zoom mostly, but that's fine. So get familiar with the technology through which you are presenting. And I always try and use a headphone, like most of you are doing. I never use a speaker while talking, because that your voice does not come very clearly there. So always try and use a headphone, especially if you're making a virtual presentation. If you're making it on stage, stand a little bit away from the mic. Don't stand very into the mic, because that distorts your voice, right? So these are all, and some more coming up. And with that, what I'll do is I'll go back to my presentation, and then I will take more questions a little later.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Okay, I hope you can see my screen.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right. So I was telling you, how do you create a lasting impression? And that ties in with the question we received on how do you make a presentation? So remember the acronym SPECC. Okay, so now let me tell you what it means. Any guesses? You can put your comments on the chat box on what do you think SPENCC stands for. And someone can tell me what are the comments coming in. Let's do a little bit more interaction. Do you know the full form of this acronym? Okay, let me start with the first one. Well, the S stands for speech. Okay. And when I talk and when I say speech, there are three critical aspects in speech. The first one is what we say is basically the knowledge that we have. How we say it is the feelings. How are we wanting to uh, send the message across? Be clear, be concise, and be specific when you talk. And the language is not important. It's okay. आप हिंदी में बात करोगे तो भी ठीक है. आप English में बात करोगे तो भी ठीक है. But it's important to be concise and to be clear. You know, some people have this notion that only speech is when you're speaking something, it should only be in English. That's not right. You can speak in any language, but the rules remain the same, that you need to be clear, you need to be concise, and you need to be specific, right? And it's also very important, and someone asked me, right, that, how do you make presentations? So this is how you do it. So when you're preparing for your speech, you need to have the knowledge of the subject that you're talking about. You also need to know where would you want to, modulate your voice. With what feelings do you want to say a particular sentence or a particular paragraph? That's very, very important. Well, the next one was P. What does P stand for? The P stands for the presentation. It is not the PowerPoint presentation. Don't misunderstand it. This presentation is about yourself, how you are presenting yourself personally, which is the dress code, how professional are you, the way you present yourself to work. The presentation part also comes, when you are writing, an email or you're communicating something via an email. Avoid any kind of cross-outs or errors. Now we have a very nice tool when you're writing an email, and if you put the grammar check on, generally you get a red under the word. So you can always right-click it and correct your word, right? Even after that, it's always good to do a grammar check or a spell check before you send across your resume, or tomorrow, when you go for your interviews and you have to write a covering letter with your resume. Extremely important on how you are professionally writing that. That's presentation. The third one is eye contact. And I was just telling the person who asked me the question, how important is eye contact? Yeah. What does an eye contact mean? Now, like, for example, if I were to always look down like this and speak, would you be interested in talking to me? No, right? That's exactly what I mean. When you have eye contact with someone and when you speak to them, whether it is on a call or whether it is face-to-face, it conveys openness and it conveys trust. It conveys to the opposite person that, they will be able to trust you better. Do not stare at someone, but look them in the eye. There is a difference, right? There is a difference when you stare at someone. Don't make a person feel uncomfortable by staring at them. Look them in the eye. That's important. Don't look upwards when your audience is right in front of you. So someone was asking a question, right? That what should you do when you're presenting? So when you're presenting, make sure you maintain an eye contact with your audience. Don't just look straight at the wall and speak, because people understand it. You need to connect with the audience, and making an eye contact means you are connecting with them, right? So that's the acronym for you, SPECNC. Now, what is the last C? The second last C, yeah? It's courtesy, correct? Courtesy is important every every phase of your life, whether it is in college, or whether it is, somebody was asking a question about Viva, right? Whether it is with your professors, your teachers, examiners, or even tomorrow with your colleagues, when you're joining your office, or when you start your own business, or at home, even with your family members. I think courtesy is always taken for granted sometimes. But you need to be conscious about being courteous, because manners definitely matter a lot. Being polite, being courteous, do not, generally this happens when you're among friends, and when you're in college, you are used to using swear words. But it's a complete no-no tomorrow when you go in a professional work environment. Or don't use any lingos. You have a lot of WhatsApp lingos. TC, right? Now, TC does not work when especially you are writing a formal email or in a formal communication. Do not use these lingos or these jargons like TC, or what is the other one I generally see on WhatsApp? Uh, Thank you so much, TYSM something, right? Don't use that in a formal communication environment. Okay, it's very, very important. uh, and I think, the being courteous is something that you will learn by observing, right? And in the first couple of days in a new environment that you go to, or a new office that you go to, observe people, observe the people there. You will you'll automatically pick up those signals, and you will know the courteousness that's observed in that office, or in the new environment that you go. Well, what is the last C in our SPECC? Do remember this acronym. Extremely important for you to make a lasting impression. The last C is about competence. Competence refers to, how you demonstrate your knowledge, right? Just because you know something, you should always remember you should also know when and how to demonstrate your knowledge. Uh, how organized you are with everything, especially, when you go for an interview, it's important to organize your folder and your file and go. Otherwise, or even for your, somebody spoke about Viva. I don't know whether these days you're allowed to take anything for a Viva or not, but if you're allowed to take papers, or you want to show some experiments, some work you've done, always remember to remain extremely organized. Ask clarification questions if you don't understand something, and also answer questions when something is asked to you, right? So competence is very, very important to leave a lasting impression. Again, going back to what we started with, SPECC. Please remember this acronym to make a lasting impression. Okay. With that, I'm going to move to the next part, which is a conversation cycle. This is not anything new. We all do this. However, it's very important to be conscious about it. So, what is a conversation cycle? Let me first bring that. Right now, when I'm talking to you, I'm informing you something. Then I'm inviting you to ask questions. Then I will listen to what you're saying. After that, I acknowledge, right? I acknowledge, and then I again go back to either talk about something or I will invite you. So, whenever you're having a conversation with someone, these are the 4 elements that you should keep in mind. You inform, you invite, you listen, and then you acknowledge what the person says. Yeah. So these are this. As I said, you always do this. However, it's very important now to be conscious about it, right? So there's a conversation cycle, and here's the thing about how do you make lasting impressions and create great customer relationships. Well, as the slide says, 1 dose of emotion, 1 dose of feeling, 1 dose of positive attitude, and lots of tender and loving care together builds a lasting customer relationship. In your case, even, relationships with your professors, your teachers, your peers, your colleagues, everyone. Okay. And well, with that, I come to the last slide to ask you if there are any questions. I'm going to stop sharing it, and now I'm going to come back to the screen. Can you all see me now? Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. So this is all that I wanted to cover on communication. It's a vast field. There is a lot that you can, and I'm sure you will find out. But now throwing it open to any other questions that anyone would have.
Ma'am, I have a question.
Sure.
Ma'am, I am an introvert, so I will always have a question like how to open myself or how to express myself. So
Okay. See, introverts and extrovert is a state of mind, to be honest with you. I think everyone is an extrovert, everyone is an introvert as well, because it purely depends upon the situation they are in. If you think that, how can I talk when, there are so many people around, there are so many senior people, how do I ask my question, how do I talk? You'll never be able to talk. What's the maximum that can happen? You will go wrong. You will speak an incorrect word. You will speak an incorrect sentence. That's absolutely okay. You always apologize and move on. Sorry is, I think, one of the greatest English words that we have, right? It's also overused word, but you can always apologize and, and correct yourself. But I think being introvert or extrovert is a state of mind. Definitely, it is what you think that I'm an introvert. How can I speak? Just go ahead and talk. What maximum will happen? You'll go wrong. That's it. That's absolutely fine. Just smile, right? And I think, having a great smile, and Padmakshi, you have a beautiful smile. I'm sure everyone will absolutely be okay and just correct yourself.
thank you so much, ma'am. Are there any other questions?
Ma'am, I have a question.
Sure.
Ma'am, when we are delivering a speech, we have a certain content. But if the speaker uh, has a lot of content in his, sorry, ma'am. Ma'am, can I ask in Hindi?
हाँ जी प्लीज, मैंने पहले ही बोला कोई भी भाषा में आप बात करो वो इम्पोर्टेंट नहीं होता है, आप क्लियर बात करे वो इम्पोर्टेंट होता है. प्लीज आस्क इन हिंदी.
यस मैम, एक्चुअली मैं क्वेश्चन इसी के लिए था कि मैम अगर जो हमें कुछ बोलना है, हमारा जो कंटेंट है वो हम हिंदी में ज़्यादा अच्छे से डिलीवर कर सकते हैं, एंड देयर इज अ फॉर्मल मीटिंग गोइंग ऑन, सो वी हैव टू प्रेफर इंग्लिश और कंटेंट, कौन सा बेहतर है
नहीं,
हमारे लिए?
आप हिंदी में भी बात कर सकते हो. एंड दिस इज अ वेरी गुड क्वेश्चन दैट यू आस्क्ड, बिकॉज ये काफी टाइम होता है. कभी कभी हमारे जो थॉट्स होते हैं वो हम हिंदी में उसको ज्यादा अच्छे से प्रेजेंट कर सकते हैं. आप हिंदी में बात कीजिए. आजकल की ऑर्गेनाइजेशन में अनलेस यू आर टॉकिंग टू अ फॉरेनर, अनलेस यू आर टॉकिंग टू समबडी हु इज नॉट फ्रॉम इंडिया, देन ऑफ कोर्स इंग्लिश इज अ यूनिवर्सल लैंग्वेज. अदरवाइज आप हिंदी में बात कर सकते हैं. आप पूछ सकते हैं उनको कि क्या मैं हिंदी में बात करूं. एंड always, there is something known as Hinglish. Hindi और English का mix. Hinglish is very common in a lot of organizations today. आप सेम सेंटेंस में कोई कोई वर्ड्स हिंदी में अच्छे आप बोल सकते हैं. जैसे मैं प्रेजेंट को मैं खुद नहीं बोल पाती हिंदी में, तो मैं उसको प्रेजेंट बोल देती हूँ, बट यू वोंट इवन रियलाइज. जब आप बात कर रहे हो, इट्स ऑलवेज अ कॉम्बिनेशन ऑफ इंग्लिश एंड हिंदी, और आप बात कर सकते हैं, उसमें कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं है. बट इंपॉर्टेंट इज कि आपके थॉट्स आप कैसे डिलीवर करते हैं, वो ज्यादा इंपॉर्टेंट होता है, नॉट द लैंग्वेज. But that's a good question, because a lot of people have that dilemma, and that's absolutely okay. I mean, till you are, that's why if you see, nowhere have I mentioned the language in which you should present. I think the content is extremely important when you're presenting. Okay. Any other questions from anyone? Any thoughts, any thoughts on what I presented, or any follow-up questions on what I spoke about today?
Ma'am, how to maintain courtesy when the other person is going violent or getting angry?
That's a very good question. So, if the other person is getting violent or angry, and you will definitely find this in a lot of customer service scenarios, especially when you're in a customer service organization or when you're serving customers, you may come across that scenario. The best thing to do at that time is not for you to react. Because remember, when you start getting angry, you are reacting. The best way at that time is to say that, sir, ma'am, or Mr. So-and-so, ma'am, Miss So-and-so, I understand you have a problem. We need to solve it together. But if you keep shouting at me, I will not be able to help you. So please, I'm ready to hear your problem. I'm ready to solve your problem. Could you please speak a bit softer? Could you please calm down? The moment you start using those words, people understand. But still, if the opposite person is violent, then you say that, sorry, I will not talk to you because I think you're not in the right frame of mind. Once you're okay, we can resume our conversation and we can restart our conversation together. I think that's the best way. But what you said, that requires a lot of mind control. I mean, I know all of us, when I was also in college, I mean, मेरे को ऐसे कैसे बोल दिया उसने, अभी तो मैं देख लूंगा उसको, मैं देख लूंगी. Very common lines, right? But well, that's what's going to be different for you when you move to a corporate environment, right? You need to keep your cool. Because remember, it's not you that is being spoken to, it's the situation. So let the situation calm down, and then you can go ahead and resume your conversation or the topic or the issue that was happening. Yeah, that's important.
Ma'am, there's a
Thank you so
question
much,
from
ma'am.
Krusang Dalwadi on YouTube. The question is, as far as communication is concerned, Generally, people get nervous at the time of presentation. So, what are the remedies for that?
Okay, I think the first remedy is, as I mentioned, take a deep breath. It really helps. Take a deep breath, count up to 5 or up to 7 or 8, and then start speaking. Also, when you speak first or when you give your presentation, I think the first 5 seconds, just become familiar with everyone. You know, when you're becoming familiar with everyone, the first thing to do is just greet everyone. Greet, good morning, good afternoon, hello, how are you? Because those are some things which are very, you don't have to think before speaking. आप लोग सब कैसे हैं, सब ठीक होगा, everyone in your family is doing good. Those are all things that get you comfortable while talking. Introduce yourself, talk about yourself in the beginning, because everyone is comfortable talking about himself or herself always. So talk about yourself first and then get into the topic. Spend the first 10 seconds, 15 seconds talking about yourself. That also helps you take away the nervousness and then get into the presentation. Keep your notes ready. Either memorize it, keep it on a notepad, keep a printout, whatever you're comfortable with. Keep your notes ready, especially for the first 1 or 2 minutes, so that you become comfortable with what you have to talk. And please, when you're making a presentation, don't copy paste what you see on internet, because those are not your sentences. You'll never be able to explain them. आपका खुद का बनाइए. You can always take inspiration from internet, but don't copy paste, because जब आप copy paste करते हो, तो you are not able to put across your thoughts. To put across your thoughts, you have to write it, you have to type it. Then you will be able to put across your thoughts. I think that's important. So these are, 4 or 5 important things when you have to present. And don't worry, आज आप मुझे ये बोल रहे हैं, after a couple of years, if I were to meet you somewhere, you will say, अरे presentation तो मैं अब इतना करता हूँ या करती हूँ, अभी तो मेरे लिए बहुत common हो गया है. Don't worry, it's a matter of time. I can't hear you, Sulay. I think you are on mute.
Sorry, ma'am. Ma'am, the next question. Overall courtesy is good or bad in communication?
Courtesy is good or bad in communication, meaning I didn't understand, Sulay. What was the intent of the question? Okay, if I'm understanding it correctly, what you're asking is, being courteous is always good in a communication. You can be courteous by various ways. In a non-verbal or in a written communication, being courteous means always asking for well-being, keeping your sentences short, clearly giving the message or the reason for that communication or that email that you're sending to someone. Being courteous means what? So I'll give you an example. Let's say, for example, you are writing an email to a prospective employer with, let's say, your resume, right? You can just say that attached is my resume. Please let me know if there is a suitable, a suitable post in your organization. That's it. That means you're not showing courtesy. A courteous email will say that, hello, hi, Mr. So-and-so, whatever, sir, ma'am. I saw your, I see that you have a vacancy for an XY position. I would like to apply for that. Here is attached is my resume. Um, would definitely looking forward to hearing positively from you, etc., etc. That is being courteous in an email. Similarly, when you're talking to someone face to face or in an interview, when you start or when you go somewhere, being courteous means really, really starting with a lot of with niceties, starting with a greeting, asking for well-being. That is being courteous. I hope I have been able to explain to you.
Ma'am, I have a question.
Sure.
Ma'am, what's the difference between being courteous and being over courteous?
Good question. Courteous is normally, till you get comfortable with the other person. Overly courteous means after every sentence, someone tells you, thank you. Okay, I understood. Thank you. Thank you. That's being over courteous. You're not supposed to, after every sentence someone speaks, you're supposed to be thankful to them. You're supposed to be thankful once, that thank you for giving me an opportunity to, maybe be here for an interview or to have this conversation with you. Over courteous means at the end of every sentence, you're using the word thank you, sorry, not needed, right? You see, courtesy should be used to make you familiar with the surrounding, with the person, and that's it. And then the conversation continues in its natural way.
Ma'am, next question from Vani. How to overcome fear to speak English?
How to overcome fear to speak English? Okay, see, the first thing that you should do is there are lots of English speaking courses online, right? And all of you are right now operating from home. Go ahead and enroll yourself into an English course if that helps you. Start reading English newspapers. That's the first thing. Start reading English newspapers, English magazines. It could be online as well. Paper versions. I mean, these days you don't get the print versions at many homes. Go online and you can read online newspapers, online magazines in English, and read only the English magazines, right? I mean, anytime you were to learn a new language, I think the first thing to do is becoming familiar with the pronunciation of the words in that language. So enroll for a quick, lots of online English courses are available. If you search Google, you'll get them. Enroll for a course like that. Speak, read English newspapers, and every day, record a paragraph in English. First is to become comfortable with speaking. Every day evening, put on your recorder on your phone and just record a paragraph in English. Do it religiously for 1 month. Believe me, you will become extremely fluent in English. Because when you listen to it for yourself, when you speak, you realize the errors that you make in pronunciation and you'll correct it, right? And these days, mobile recorder, it has got a very good facility. Just go ahead and do it. You can record in your laptop as well, whatever you're comfortable with. That's the best way to learn English.
Thank you, ma'am.
I can't hear you, Sulai. I think you are on
Thank
mute.
you, ma'am. Now, anyone having more queries related to this webinar, you can reach us on social media platform.
Thank you so much, ma'am. This seminar was really amazing. All your guidance was very helpful for us. Thank you so much. Uh,
Sure.
ESL commits to bring more such content in future. Making this event successful takes a lot of efforts. Throughout our journey, there was one person who was always by our side. She tirelessly encouraged and motivated us. I would like to call the most energetic president of ESIL, Benita Khua, to give vote of thanks.
I am glad to grab this opportunity for conveying gratitude on behalf of ESEL ADIT. Thank you so much, ma'am, for enriching each one of us with several lifelong teachings. We are privileged to have your presence on this occasion. Audience are backbone of any event. The whole structure of event is entirely designed around them. I feel great to have such a great audience like you all. Thanks a lot for being a part of this webinar. I would also like to hand down my feelings and gratitude towards each and every member of ESEL team who has contributed to make this webinar a success. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you very much, everyone. It was really wonderful, and it took me back to my college days. So thank you so much. Have a very, very bright future, and good luck to everyone. And stay safe, stay indoors, wear a mask. Don't forget. Bye.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you,
Thank you,
ma'am.
ma'am.
Thank you so much,
Thank
ma'am.
you, ma'am.
Thank you
Thank
very
you,
much, ma'am.
ma'am.
दी सब लोग को लीव होने बोलिए.
केवल लाइव बंद कर दे.